What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and welcome to a short impressions video for Final Fantasy 15 on the PC. Now, you guys can see the review if you want. You can go. I'll put a link in the description. You guys already know how I feel about the game overall. This is just the PC impressions and my initial thoughts after about 8 to 9 hours. So overall, I have to say, while the game does run fine on one or two of my systems, one of them did have a lot of stutter, and it didn't matter if I went in and changed any of the so-called NVIDIA effects, which it just seems to me like the moment they put their name on something, it's going to make your game run worse. But even turning those off, there was some stuttering in one of the systems, and it really just never seemed to go away. You know, when it comes down to Final Fantasy, there's going to be fans who are big fans of Final Fantasy and ones that aren't. And really, when it comes to all these series that we have with all of these different sequels, I think with Final Fantasy, it's one of those titles that really doesn't have a middle ground for a lot of people. It's either something that they absolutely love or absolutely hate. Of course, every single game has the magic that works differently, and here you have two different battle systems that you can use, an active battle system, which is basically just without pause, and then a system where it pauses between actions that you've chosen. Of course, you have the summonings, and you have your different magic, and you have cooking, you have chocobo races, you have all of these different things that you can do, everything that was in the original. And then, of course, you have the DLC, which is in the PC package and added to the Xbox One and PS4 versions. Also, the game's got Tobii Eye integration, which is a system that looks at where you're looking at on the computer monitor and adjusts the view accordingly. It's pretty cool. It's just basically eye tracking. Let's talk about sound, music, and voice. Let's just listen for a second.
This time.
Work got you busy?
Most days that's true, but today's a little different. I was just about to step away from the garage for a spell.
So we're supposed to venture out into the wild, find the wax, and bring it back.
That's the plan.
Unbelievable. Cindy was willing to go out of her way and risk life and limb for us. How do we get through all that?
Taking that on, sneak up from behind.
You know, when you jump into these titles, you have to know, especially when it comes to music, this is the bombastic orchestral scores that we expect from a Final Fantasy game. There are some other elements that I certainly did enjoy, whether exploring or driving around in the vehicle, almost a Western style element to some of the music, which I did actually like. Now, when it comes to voice, it's always best to remember that the Final Fantasy games almost never go for characters that are going to sound like you expect. So when you jump into a title like this, it's something I talked about in my initial review, and it's something I'm going to talk about in the international podcast we do on Fridays. But you definitely do notice that in this Final Fantasy, even more so. There's a couple of your team members that you're like, really? Because it just sounds a little bit off. Now, there's a lot of reports that people are having issues not hearing some of the voices in the game. I haven't noticed that as much, but I have noticed a layering issue where there's one or two particular times, especially in that first couple hours, where people are talking and you really can't hear their voice, but it's there. It's actually being spoken. It's just a little bit lower than it should be when it comes to its layering. But overall, it's not absolutely terrible. It is noticeable, though, I would say. And some people might just be assuming that means it's not playing at all for them, or they may be getting a completely separate issue I'm not aware of. And of course, that brings us to a little bit of the gameplay, and some of it you can check in the review if you want. Again, that'll be in the description. But I think I'll just say this. The ability to play with the mouse and keyboard is great because it's there, but I ended up still playing with the controller and just sort of leaning back and playing. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the mouse and keyboard. There wasn't. Switching between the two is pretty seamless, and overall, as with all PC titles, there are more options here than there were on the console version, which is always nice if you want to sit back and sort of dial in your exact experience. And I think that's one thing I noticed while I was playing. I just really do enjoy a lot of this experience. There's a lot of fun to be had if we're going to break it down again into fun factor a little bit. There is something about it that's sort of intangible, something about it that I like. I love the communal way in which these guys travel too. It's like four best friends if you watch it, which is always fun to sort of see their interactions, even if they're doing something as simple as going to sleep at night at their camp. It's not just one of those games where it's like, boom, you push a button, camp, everybody goes to sleep. Instead, there's these cutscenes where it shows people talking. You can't hear them, but they're just engaging with one another. And the animation is done so realistically at that point that it really does look like four best friends going on some kind of road trip with monsters. So that's it for me. I know it's a short video, but I just wanted to give some impressions because there were so many people reporting so many differing responses when it came to the performance on their systems. I figured this was a good time to at least put out a short video. And I'm enjoying running through it again. It's one of those titles that I don't get a chance to return to on the console. So the fact that it's on the PC now is sort of an excuse for me to jump in as well. You know, Square gave out the codes just here recently in the last couple days, which was really surprising, I think, to a lot of people. A couple places probably got them even earlier if they're giant companies. But overall, there was some nervousness there. And I can see that, you know, with the stuttering issues and with some performance issues, there is a little bit of a reason to worry. But once again, hopefully some of those are fleshed out, because this is a Final Fantasy title that I think, at least for me, is one of the more enjoyable to play and one of the more enjoyable to just look at and experience. Because in a lot of games, there's, like I said with the camping, there's these basic moments where a lot of games will just truncate it and be like, boom, you're going to sleep, or boom, you're doing this. But with Final Fantasy 15, there's an extra layer of interaction there that doesn't exist in most other RPGs, and I think that's noticeable. And certainly on the PC, well, it looks even better than on the consoles. So that's it for me. I hope you liked the video. If you did, thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. As always, you can check out Reddit or Twitter, or you can become a patron at the Patreon website. And of course, that helps me give you guys reviews that aren't 2 minutes long or filled with sponsored bullcrap. And remember, I buy every single game I review, even if a developer gives me a code afterwards. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.